Once again, I'll remind you guys that this will be on website, people that are new, if you want to look at it or refer to it. .1 medians. Median of a triangle. That's what we're talking about, a median of. What a median is a segment whose endpoints are the vertex of a triangle and the midpoint of the opposite side. We've got a triangle here. What we're going to do is I'm going to draw a median from A. Well, actually, let's back up. With this definition, how many medians do you think there can be in a triangle? I heard 3, I heard 2. If 2, tell me why. If 3, tell me why. Okay. It says there's 3 vertexes. Okay. So it has to start at what? A vertex, right? So if there's only 3 vertexes, there's only 3 possible places to start, isn't there? At the same time, how many different midpoints of a side do you think there are? Right, there's 3 sides, so there can only be 3 what? Midpoints. Okay? So let's find the midpoint. I'm going to measure mine. I made mine 6 millimeters long here. So right at 3 is where my midpoint would be, wouldn't it? I made this one 4, so my midpoint would be at 2. Didn't measure this one. How long is it? 8.5, roughly. So 4 1/4, roughly right there about. Okay, watch what happens when I draw all 3. First of all, let's just draw one median. Something I can help you two with? Something I can help you guys with? Okay. Now, does it look like this is right in the middle here? Does it? Yeah. Yes, it does. So that is what? That's a median because it goes from a vertex to what? The midpoint. I measured this one pretty accurately, so I'll do this one next. Does this look like it cuts this side in half? It does, doesn't it? So do your best to draw it the same on your piece of paper. Tell you what, let's do that one in a different color. Then our last one, if you'll notice, what does it look like it perfectly does? Does it intersect here perfectly? It does, doesn't it? Now you got to remember, I could have been wrong in how I did this, couldn't I? How I measured it. So it's pretty close. So I'm going to assume, so let's create 3 new points, or 4 actually. Let's call this point D, point E, point F, and we'll call this point G. These segments, AD, BF, and, or I should say the lines and EC are said to be concurrent lines. Because they all 3 intersect at one point. My bad. These are said to be concurrent lines because they intersect at one point. G is said to be the point of concurrency. Point of concurrency. Because that's the point where they all 3 meet, isn't it? This is just a little bit of a vocabulary lesson. Concurrent lines are lines that meet at the same point. G is also called the centroid. And the centroid is where medians meet. Centroid is a point of concurrency, and a centroid is where medians meet. Okay? So this point is called the centroid. Once again, more of a vocabulary lesson than math. If they're talking about a centroid, they're talking about where medians meet inside of a triangle. In some future sections, when we talk about angle bisectors and perpendicular bisectors, you'll find that they have a point of concurrency as well, and it's called something else. But this one, centroid, is where the what? Medians meet. Point of concurrency is where any 3 lines meet. Okay? The whole reason we're doing this one especially is because something kind of special happens here, a special relationship between these. Has everybody got this written down yet? When we do, has everybody got this down? Okay, here, I want to talk about, I'm going to zoom in a little bit tighter on this. And I just want to talk about this triangle. Let's try to describe the kind of segments created here. First of all, just looking at this right here. Look at B, let's look at BF. Which one's bigger? The two parts that are created, which one's bigger? Huh? B to G, right? Is bigger than G to F. Would you agree by looking at that? Where did B and G is from the centroid to the what? What is that called? Vertex. Don't have to write this down. Just pay attention.
You're not going to get copies for a while.
We're not?
No. Miss Anderson came to this one because the other one was backed up. And she said she just put a ton of stuff in.
Okay. If you look here, so we're going to say this one's bigger than that one. Look here, A to D. Which part is bigger on this one? A to what? AG is the bigger part of the two. Does everybody agree with that? Where does it come from? Okay, look at C to E. Which part's the bigger there? C's not bigger. C is a point. So when I say which part, what am I talking about? The segment. C to G. C to G, that segment is the bigger of the two, correct? And it comes from, starts at the what? So what did they all three have in common, all three medians? The bigger part came from what? The smaller part comes from what? The reason I tell you this is because here's the relationship of how these work out. Everybody pay attention. This is important. This will be what a lot of your assignment is. The smaller part will always be x, and the bigger part will always be 2x. So if this one is 5, what's that make this one? Okay? With the other median, they get broken up the exact same way, so I'm going to use a different variable. This is the smaller part, right? From the midpoint, right? So it's y. What's the bigger part?
2y.
So if this one was 7, what's this one?
14.
Okay. Here, which one's the smaller part?
EG.
So if it's z, what's the bigger part? 2z. So if this one was 6, what's this one? Now, write that down.
By all that?
Without the numbers. Don't write the midpoint, vertex, and all that stuff down. Just write.
I don't know if I can fit that in there.
Then you should have written bigger. So you guys can see that the smaller part is the part that goes to the what? Midpoint every time. You guys see the difference? That's the big relationship here and the reason why this is the first section in this chapter. Special things happen. They get broke up to where this is a third of the total distance and this is 2/3. Or if this one is x, this one is 2x. So I'm going to give you some examples now. First example. How does that look like now? In what world? Oh, well, that said L. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do the rest up on kind of the board when we work these problems. Do them up here. So as far as the, you need to make sure and write this part down because it won't be on the video. All you'll be able to do is hear me talk about it, not write it down. Okay, our first problem. Oh, I guess we'll get it written down. Everybody got it written down? You've got it written down, let me know and we'll zoom in, make the, get a little bigger. So everybody got the 3 questions written down?
No.
Okay. All right. What does the first problem tell me? GF equals 5. So I'll label that. It's telling me that right there is 5. What do they want me to find? They want me to find B to F. They want me to find that right there. Okay. How do we know how they relate to each other? The smaller one's X, the bigger one's what? 2X. Which one did they give us? The smaller, the bigger, the whole thing? They gave us the smaller, didn't they? So if this is 5, what's the bigger one? Is that what they asked me for, though? What did they ask me for? The whole thing. Well, I know that this part's 5 and that part's 10. Is that all the parts of the whole thing? So what's the whole thing? 10 plus 5, which is? So that is the answer to the number. That's what BF, so write BF is equal to? 15. Makes sense? Write that down. What does the next problem say? Huh? AG equals 18. So they gave me that. What are they asking me to find? Okay, so this is what they're asking me to find right there. Well, did they give me the bigger part, the smaller part, or the whole thing? The bigger part. The bigger part. So it's 2y. What are they? So what's the smaller part then? It's not 36, is it? Because this is the smaller part. So this one's 2y, this one's y, so it's what? Half of this one, making it 9. If they ask for the whole thing, what would the whole thing be? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Are we okay with that?
I
Okay. I want you to look at something in your head right here. This one was 15, the smaller part was what? This one was 27, the smaller part was? How do they relate to each other? This in both situations, what can you say? How many times? No, 3. If I multiplied the smaller one times 3, what do I get? The whole thing, right? If I multiply the smallest one by 3, I get what? The whole thing. Okay? There's a reason I did that. The next one, what do they give me? That doesn't tell me anything. The EC, E to C, they said was 24. So that's the whole thing. Well, if you notice here, I have this part is Z, and this part is 2Z. Okay, let's say you are confused on this. What do I know? The two parts equal the what? Whole thing, do they not? So what could I say? Z plus what? 2Z, what would that equal? Does everyone agree with that logic? Are these like terms? This is like 1Z, right? So this makes what? Is equal to what? Did I solve for Z? What would I do? Divided by what? Z is equal to 8. So if this is 8, what's that part? 16. So do we know all both things they asked for now? Yes. Okay. It's not so bad, is it? So when they give you the whole thing, just divide it by 3 and you know what the smaller part is, don't you? Yep. That's all you got to do every time they give you the whole thing. Now, let's go with another one here.
Hey, John.
See if you guys can figure out how to do that. How are we going to do this one? Before you start worrying about how to do it, just talk about what's given to you. What do you know about this?
We know that AC is.
We know that all of those 3 lines or segments drawn inside the triangle, what do we know about them? What are they called? Lines. They're actually called segments. But they're called, she's right, they're called medians. What's the name of this section? Medians. So what are we focusing on here?
Medians.
There you go. What is significant about a median? What makes something a median? Tell me. No.
The segment.
Don't guess. Read.
Segment is a triangle, vertex is a triangle in the midpoint.
It goes from what?
Opposite side. It goes from a vertex to midpoint.
Which is what he just said, so I'll say that wrong.
Yeah. Opposite side. No, not so.
You're about to be sitting in the back for years.
Yeah, can I sit in front?
You ask again. You interrupt when you're not being talked to. You have no way you ever will.
I can't focus.
Okay, the answer's no forever now. Because you did not shut up. Okay. So we said it goes from, a median always goes from the vertex to the what?
Midpoint.
What is a midpoint?
It's the point in the middle.
Point exactly in the middle. So what do I know about the 2 parts created here? Isn't this congruent to that? Okay, they gave me a problem where they said that A to F, so here to here is what? 2x plus 4, don't just say something, look. A to F is 2x plus 4, is that correct?
Yes.
They said that A all the way to what? C is 24. That's the whole thing, is it not? So we kind of have one relating to the other. If I knew this part, could I write an equation? I could say this plus what? That equals the what? The whole thing.
You still can't.
Do I know what this part is? Why? They're the same, correct? If here to here is 2x plus 4, because they're congruent, what's here to here?
2x plus 4.
Okay.
Right?
Right. Yeah.
So what now would my equation be? Remember I told you guys, anytime it looks like an algebra problem, you need to write a what? Equation, usually. So what would my equation be? 2x plus 4 plus what?
2x plus 4 equals 24.
That's ugly, but if it's ugly, usually there's some simplifying to do, is there not?
Yes.
Eyes up here, please. Eyes up here, please. 2x and what? Those are like terms, are they not? 2x's and 2x make?
4x.
4 and 4 makes?
8.
Is equal to what? What would my next step be?
Minus
Right.
8 is 24.
Minus 8 from both sides.
You're gonna get 16.
I have 4x is equal to? What would my next step be?
Divide by
5
4.
is going to be